Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a smashing Thursday so far. Today, we're going to be diving into our daily cryptocurrency market update, and we're going to be looking at a number of different charts, really focusing on Bitcoin, going over and taking a look at the Bitcoin, S&P 500, and NASDAQ correlation. Are we starting to see Bitcoin move away from your equities? Something I would personally like to see, given all the uncertainty geopolitically and in regards to monetary policy that we're seeing at the moment. We're also going to be looking at Bitcoin and the dollar chart again, because of course Bitcoin and the chart is only one side of the story, and there is a huge correlation, as this very clearly illustrates, with the dollar in green and Bitcoin, and the dollar is currently going down after it ran that significant 100 level. The last time we were there, again, to reiterate, we were at around about the 10K range, so we're nearly 4x from that. In fact, more than 4x. And, you know, it kind of puts things into perspective. Certainly, as people look very pessimistically on the cryptocurrency space recently, given its recent downtrend. We're also going to be going over a number of news articles involving Goldman Sachs, one of the big German banking giants, Commerzbank. Also talking about a number of other things in regards to retail, bringing up Elon Musk. In regards to the fact that Tesla actually haven't sold any of their Bitcoin. They still hold, I think it's $1.6, $1.7 billion worth of BTC. And this is a trend that I think we're actually going to see continue with lots of your corporations, given the fact that they, many of them hold a lot of cash on their balance sheets. And, you know, over the long term, Bitcoin has already proved to outperform cash and be a good store against it. And that's going to be a continuation or something that we see continuation of, in my opinion. So let's start the video off by looking at the overall market. Not really much going on. We'll get straight into Bitcoin. We were looking at a number of things. We were speculating that this sort of MACD structure that you've got is a smaller version of this. And essentially right now, you're here, and you've still got this leg to come potentially for Bitcoin. That's what I am actually looking at the moment. And we do have a 200-day moving average that is round about that 48K, 47K range, and I would actually like to see Bitcoin take a move back up there. So let's drop down the timeframes, guys, and let's take a look at what's going on the smaller timeframes. You guys know that we are in this pattern, and we've been in this pattern essentially for a while now. It's very range-driven at the moment, these markets. You know, you can see this is your kind of range here that you're chopping around in, with your sort of splitter in the middle. And ultimately, you know, you are in an ascending triangle that we did fail, but we now, convincingly with strength, sort of came back into it. And we are indeed now coiling up within it. And I would like to see a break to the upside. This 200-day moving average is something like this. You know, we bounced off it here. And I would like to see a move up to it. And it's what it does when we meet that 200-day moving average that I really think is going to make a difference. We don't want MA cross. What do we want? Moving average. Let's bring the moving average up. Let's get rid of the moving average cross. I'll just show you that as I've brought it up. We did bring it up in yesterday's video. Put the 200-day in. Can you see you pretty perfectly rejected off it here? And I think we are on our way potentially back up to it if it comes a little bit lower. So I'm looking at Bitcoin potentially moving up. And we did point out to you in yesterday's video, the daily cryptocurrency market update that we did yesterday came out a little bit later than we usually bring them out, just because I was only bringing out one video yesterday. And we did say, look, you are in a kind of bull pennant here, that it failed, kind of fake one way and go the other. And we are looking at continuation. And like I say, I would like to see us start to climb up within this sort of broader triangle structure, get towards that moving average, and it's what it does there that's really going to be significant. And certainly I think that given what's taking place on the MACD, given what's taking place with the dollar at the moment, because the dollar, this is the dollar currency index here, which is over on this side, guys, which is you can see this 100 mark, it ran and it's now taking a rest, and this has been very accommodating for Bitcoin. And you can see this is Bitcoin, this is the dollar. You can see just how adversely correlated they are. And even at the moment, guys, dollar down, Bitcoin up. So this is something that you really want to pay attention to. One thing that's extremely interesting is I think Bitcoin's probably more correlated to the dollar than many of your equities. And if we actually take a look at the equities, in red here, we have the NASDAQ, which had a horrific time, or is having a horrific time, along with stocks like Netflix and a number of other things. But that's based on earnings, really. But we have really seen a huge correlation. I mean, you can see just how correlated they are up until recently. There is still a correlation there, but it's becoming less so, in my opinion. And at the moment, you're seeing Bitcoin strength. You also saw the S&P strength, but the S&P actually sold off or closed down yesterday. Bitcoin's continuing to persevere on, and your Nasdaq's going in the opposite direction. That kind of excites me. You know, you've got to look for correlations in markets because they give you a kind of benchmark moving forwards. And this is something that we've been reminding you guys of daily. And the reason that we look at overall markets, you know, markets essentially are driven on liquidity. If we very quickly drop to the weekly time frame, March 2020, most significant event in many of our lifetimes, I believe, and is going to prove to be exactly that. This was a very accommodating for markets because the Fed essentially flooded the system with liquidity. We're now at the other end of that, and we need to see, and we've seen this move, if we bring up the Euros dollars future, which is essentially a speculative interest rate tool, you can see that markets essentially have moved on interest rate speculation and how harsh the Federal Reserve and their monetary policy is going to be towards markets and the liquidity it's going to take out of them. So markets are very liquidity driven, and when there's a liquidity reduction or it gets tampered with, you know, markets suffer at the helm of it, and that's why the correlation is there. It's always important for me to continue to go over that because we don't just exist in our own bubble anymore. Goldman Sachs eyes collaboration with crypto exchange FTX, a CEO's meet. Sam Bankman-Fried and David Solomon discuss Goldman Sachs advising FTX in talks with US regulators and a possible IPO. Goldman Sachs, I would bet my crypto portfolio on it, have a lot more involvement in the crypto space than they're letting on. They still are publicly coming out and saying, look, we are interacting with the cryptocurrency market. However, they're not coming out and saying the extent that it actually is. We looked at the fact that Goldman were essentially behind USDC. They've now passed that over to BlackRock, which has become the main custodial. These are the largest institutions in the United States, and in fact, in many cases, BlackRock is the largest institution in the world, all getting into the cryptocurrency space. Meanwhile, sentiment is very low. Guys, this is how markets work. We saw huge appreciation for Bitcoin. We are at the tail end of that appreciation that was essentially driven by the Federal Reserve's monetary policy. But at the same time, you know, crypto is still a technology that's very early on in its adoption. And that's why we're seeing the likes of Goldman Sachs and a number of other big institutions and individuals getting into the crypto space. And it's very interesting at the moment that all your big financial guys are all moving over to the crypto space. They're all getting jobs within the crypto industry. We spoke about the IMF eyeing it up and everything yesterday. Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder and CEO of the crypto exchange FTX, met Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon in the Caribbean to discuss potential collaborations between the two firms, the Financial Times reports. Absolutely. Sam Bankman-Fried's done an amazing job, by the way. If you've not looked into this guy, I mean, I think he's planning on giving all his wealth away now that he's made it. You also have a German bank, German banking giant, Commerzbank, applies for cryptocurrency license. Of course, one thing that we're still yet to see, and a trend that I'm very excited about, is how we are now seeing your cryptocurrency services become banking services. I mean, it's happening all the time. Look at the likes of Nexo, look at the likes of BlockFi, look at the likes of Crypto.com. You know, we're now seeing your banks wanting to offer crypto services. That's a trend that we see continue, and this is just another domino within the chain. Retail interest in crypto, it declines as investors search for the next big price move. This is true. If you go and look at Google searches and everything, it really validates this. However, you know, this is what you guys want to be, is interested when everyone else isn't. Just like in 2018, 2019, which I had the pleasure of being a part of the crypto space in that time period, that was when you wanted to be buying heavily, yet nobody wanted to, given the sentiment. And we're seeing a similar thing echoed today. Yes, there is still a huge macro risk, and I do still envision potentially a capitulation event. I mean, I could definitely see that. And when we look at this 200-week moving average, you know, that's around about your sort of 22k range. Not that I think we're going to get down there, but if we did see a capitulation, I tell you what, if Bitcoin got to this, and I wouldn't want that, a bit of me wouldn't, a bit of me would. If it did get down there, guys, I'd be selling the houses that I've got, I'd be selling the cars that I've got, and I'd be going all in on the cryptocurrency market. I mean, I am already all in to a degree, but I'd be, you know, really liquidating everything else that I've got and throwing it at the cryptocurrency market. Next bit of news. Elon Musk says he thinks inflation is worse than reported and likely to continue through 2022. I mean, really stating the obvious there. And, you know, when Elon Musk says it, everybody kind of listens. But this is absolutely apparent. And I actually think we're going to move into, if the Federal Reserve become more aggressive with their monetary policy, a stagflationary environment, when we see runaway inflation, which we already have, and a slowing down of the economy that doesn't really accommodate inflation, because inflation is driven by many things. If it's driven by demand, then, you know, you can kind of have high inflation. But if it's not driven by demand and inflation is driven by other factors and the demand isn't there also, you have a slowing down economy but runaway inflation. It's like, you know, two strings pulling, two sides of the strings going in opposite direction. Eventually something's going to snap, and that's kind of the environment that I think we're moving towards. To finish things off, guys, Tesla has not bought or sold crypto since Q1 2021. Tesla exceeds revenue expectations in the latest earnings report. No thanks to its crypto holdings. They had to get that in there. So the company actually holds $1.26 billion in digital assets. I think they're going to continue to ramp this up. And in actual fact, Bitcoin has not been a necessarily bad bet for them. I think it's outperformed cash. I can't remember actually where. It might actually say somewhere around here. How much they actually bought their Bitcoin for. Okay, so Tesla reports a 51 million loss as a Bitcoin-related impairment. Where are they? Yeah, so I can't find actually. So they originally invested 1.5 billion Bitcoin, and now it's worth 1.26. So maybe it hasn't been the best investment. But one thing is that they're continuing to hold it regardless of that. And I don't think a company other than Tesla could really do that. I think most companies would have sort of liquidated their position at that point, certainly given the loss. But because it's Elon Musk, you know, he kind of does what he wants, and we've seen that with the attempted Twitter acquisition. So that is really all I have for you in this video, guys. Lots and lots going on. Don't take your eye off the ball. You know, there's huge opportunities in these kind of downtrends, and it's up to you guys to realize that. If you've enjoyed this content, a like is always appreciated. So as a comment, remember to hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching, guys.